Hello everyone, it's Miss Bond again, and we're going to be talking more about argument. And this time I'm going to talk about a very specific way of thinking about analyzing as well as organizing argument. And this type of organization is that of the Toulmin model. The Toulmin model is a concept that was created by Dr. Toulmin, who became somewhat frustrated with the inability to analyze or explain everyday arguments. And so he developed his own model of reasoning to do just that. And really what the Toulmin model does, it uncovers various assumptions that are underlying arguments, as well as requires the writer to use a structure that's logical so that in convincing their reader, they're also understanding that their argument is one that is valid. There are 6 elements to the Toulmin model: the claim, support, warrant, backing, qualifier, and rebuttal. And we're going to talk about each one of those to a certain extent. Now, we've already, I think, talked and discussed and analyzed the idea of claims. I don't necessarily think that we need to go into a lot of detail in relation to that. But just so that you're aware, a claim is the point that an arguer is trying to make. It's some type of assertion, so an arguable point that the arguer wants someone else to accept. And we know that there are a number of different types of claims. We also have talked about support in relation to evidence. Support can also take on the term of grounds, just so that you know, if you're looking at other resources, they're one and the same. And this is the evidence that supports said claim, whatever it happens to be, and it answers the question, well, what is your proof, or why is something to be effective? What may not be clear is what a warrant is. When I say warrant, that's also connected to this idea of an assumption. What a warrant does is it connects the claim with the evidence, the support, the grounds. It requires a listener to recognize that there is some type of underlying reasoning, some type of underlying assumption that makes sense of the claim in light of the grounds. So what it does is it actually links, if you see here with our wonderful arrow here, it links our evidence to our claim. So if you think about something like, my sister is running a temperature, I'll bet she has an infection. Our evidence was that she was running a temperature. Our claim was that she had an infection. And so our warrant is our sign of reasoning. It's our assumption. We know that a fever is a reliable sign of an infection. Another one is that we can think about the dog is probably friendly. We know that that's our evidence, and we know that our claim is that it's a golden retriever. Or, I'm sorry, vice versa. We have that the, no, that works. And so our warrant is that most or not all of golden retrievers are actually friendly dogs. We can also think of a warrant if we have a claim of one that I should take my umbrella. My data or evidence to support that is that it's actually raining outside, and my assumption would be that an umbrella is probably going to keep me dry. And warrants are important because what they do is they actually make a connection between whatever our data was and our claim that we want to make. And it answers this question that's often asked by the audience: how did you arrive at your claim based on the evidence that you gave me? Now, what the backing does, it provides additional justification for whatever the warrant happens to be. It's an assurance that the warrant is in fact sound. It usually consists of some type of evidence to support the thought process that goes with the warrant. Now, often when you're analyzing an argument, the warrant, and as a result, the backing, is often unstated. If you remember my claim about the fact that I should take my umbrella, and my data to support it was that it was raining, with a warrant that an umbrella is going to keep me dry, the backing of that warrant, an umbrella is going to keep me dry, the reason I think that is because I know that the material is actually waterproof. So that is my backing. Now, we know that all arguments are not absolute. It can't be 100% right every single time. And so that's where the qualifier comes in. What the qualifier does, it establishes the fact that the claim may be valid in many circumstances, but not necessarily all of them. Really what it does, it tells the reader or the audience how sure the arguer is about his or her claim. Now, there are some common qualifying words, and there are many more, but usually, probably, maybe, in most cases, most likely, it tells us the force or the probability attached to our claim, whatever it happens to be. If we think about the umbrella example, it's probably going to, keep me dry. That would be my qualifier, excuse me. And what is connected often with our qualifier is the reservation, which just finishes that qualifying statement. It explains the conditions that are necessitated, by that qualifier, how there might be some limits to it. It probably will keep me dry. And then lastly, we have our rebuttal. And what the rebuttal does is it gives voice to any objections, any limitations in the argument, or exceptions to whatever our claim happens to be. And rebuttal, you can also think of the rebuttal as being an acknowledgement of the counter-argument. And what is important to remember in relation to the counter-argument is it is actually useful to acknowledge the counter-argument because it makes your reader understand that you don't have a biased view, or that you at least thought through your claim before just putting it out there. But it is also very, very important that when you acknowledge a rebuttal in an argument, that you rebut the rebuttal. You have to make sure that you come back to your claim, because otherwise the person or the audience will in fact agree with the rebuttal as opposed to your original claim. So here is one way of thinking about the Toulmin model. You have an overarching claim that you're making. To do that, though, you have to have evidence to back that claim up. Now, connecting the two of them is what we call our warrant. It connects the evidence to the claim. And with that warrant, there are underlying assumptions about your topic of choice. Now, to back up that warrant, though, you also need evidence to make sure that that warrant is sound. And in relation to that, there is an understanding that your claim is not always to be a absolute, and so you need your qualifier. And connected to that is your rebuttal, which is you can consider to be your counter argument. I want to show you one more way of thinking about it. And here is another visual way of looking at the Toulmin model. Same concept, however, this time we're looking at words that connect them. So we have some type of data, and so therefore we have this claim here. And we know that this data is sound, or it goes along with this claim, because we have this warrant. So we have our data, since this, and because of that, in relation to our evidence to back up our warrant, we have our qualifier and its words, unless, of course, something along these lines happen, and that is our counter argument. Let's look at one more, and then we'll be done. So if we see here, once again with our raining model, our claim is that I should take my umbrella. The evidence to support that is that it's actually raining. I have an underlying assumption or warrant. So I say it's raining, and I know I should take my umbrella, since an umbrella will keep me dry. I use the word probably because that's my qualifier there. And my backing to support an umbrella keeping me dry is the material is waterproof. I added, as you already know, my qualifier probably will keep me dry. And then I had a reservation unless it has a hole in it. And that, in this instance, we did not talk about specifically a rebuttal. But when we look at the sentence that creates, because it is raining, therefore I should probably take my umbrella, since it will keep me dry on account of its waterproof material, unless, of course, there is a hole in it. So let me end with this idea of the Toulmin analysis template. There is a very specific, we call it the Toulmin sentence, that you can create based on all of the 6 elements that are included. Because my evidence, therefore claim, since my assumption / warrant, on account of my backing of that, unless there's some type of reservation. And you can also use your rebuttal in the case there as well. And our qualifier would go before the claim. And this right here is the Toulmin template. Be on the lookout for some activities in class to talk about how we then analyze specific arguments and how we create them ourselves. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.